For the first time ever, we're seeing it eye to eye. Dum dum dum. Dum dum dum. Dum dum dum. Dum dum dum. There we go. Hey everybody. This is the Hierophant. My name is Patrick. And it's 11:11. Look at this. Oh wait. Oh. There it is. You can kinda see it. There you go. It's 11:11. Now it's 11:12. And it's interesting because I saw 11:09, and then I did some stuff to set this up, and I forgot. That's why it'd be like it could literally be 11:10, and then something would happen, and I would forget, and then I look back at the clock, and it's 11:12. I'm like, oh my gosh, I missed it. So today's gonna be fairly simple. I had to pull some cards for myself last night, y'all. It got to me. It got to me. I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. It got to me. So I pulled some of these last night for me, some Pride Tarots, because I was like, it's kind of sort of related to. One second. It's kind of sort of related to. How did that get down there? The color is green, which is the heart space, and it's sticky. Right. Kind of sort of related to what? It was about the heart. Because honestly, I was not confused, but it's like I was getting to that point where I was starting to get confused. And I was like, I don't know if I should go left or right. Because it was like neither option really felt good. And oh my gosh, cutting to the title card. Y'all can kind of see these. And something that one of the readers I watched on here a long time ago, something that he said has just been in my mind, and I haven't been able to get it out. And it was a Pisces reading, and he was like, the connection is real, but the person isn't. And I feel like even in the reading, he was like, I don't even know what this means, but it's like the connection is real, but the person isn't. And I was like, well, how does that work? Mirrors, fragments, fractals, and distractions. Not distractions, distortions, I guess. Mirrors, fragments, and distortions, I guess. Oh, wow. We got the 2 title cards in this deck. To me, this is like things are about to just get. It's like that hang on to your. What was that? Hang on to your underwear. What was that? Now the Queen of Pentacles is with this title card. This title card ain't going nowhere. This title card ain't going nowhere. Title card in the moon. I'm gonna keep shuffling until the title card. I think the moon just took it. It's no longer at the bottom. Yeah, the moon just took it. So the moon and the Chariot. Like I said, things are about to just pop off. But anyway, so I pulled some cards. And there was one space. I did 3 and 3. I did it like this. We'll do one of them. Actually, we'll do 2 of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull from the top. And I'm going to pull from the bottom. Actually, I'm only going to do 1. I'm going to pull from the top. We're going to pull from the bottom. So I'll give this 3 more. And there was one space that had all majors. It was like majors every single time. And I did 3 rounds. And it was more on the conscious side. Excuse me. And it was like, I think first it was the Chariot, and then it was the Star, and then it was the Moon. Or no, the Chariot came out somewhere else. I think it was kind of sort of a theme though. It was something first, and then it was the Star. It was the High Priestess, the Star, and then the Moon. High Priestess, Star, and Moon, and it was the closest card to the one that was like out. Because I do like 3 clarifiers for the one on both sides. But on this side, it was all about this space of trial. Like, my relationship with Spirit is very much like, I'm not wearing a shirt because I'm a little sweaty and I'm about to shower. So if y'all see my belly, if belly offends you, just click off now. The camera shouldn't move, but now that I've said it, it might. But I'm the type of person in my relationship is like, oh, so like I really thought I was doing this, and then Spirit would be like, no, like you're actually doing something else. But now that you've done this, I bet you know a little bit more, and you're more prepared for the something else. I'm like, yeah, 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 Spirit, you're right, but I really thought that was it. And I really feel like Uranus is asking me again. Oh, that's why I got my phone. I was gonna see if it's retrograde yet. I keep forgetting why I do this. One moment, please. The moon is in Cancer, 9 degrees. Wow. So the moon is like conjuncting Venus right now, and the moon is right on top of my Mars. Interesting. Mercury is like 2 degrees from the sun right now in Leo. Oh, Taurus. I'm all the way down. Yep, it's retrograde. Y'all see the little R on the Taurus? Where is it? Y'all see the little R next to Uranus? Uranus is retrograde. I feel like Uranus is asking me to just release some things. And I'm not gonna fight. I haven't been fighting all year. Okay, well, I was a little stubborn. I was a little stubborn in some points, but I ain't been fighting all year, and I'm not gonna fight what Uranus is telling me. And honestly, it's not even like because I was feeling this like what 2 days ago. Could be the new moon in Leo. Could be coming off of this Lionsgate. Could be Uranus. Could be a lot of things. But I mean, I feel like a lot of times I kind of sort of look for a planet to attribute it to, and it kind of sort of lines it. Honestly. Also, I've noticed I haven't been as affected by the moon cycles lately, which is very interesting. Maybe I'm sliding back more into the masculine side of my energy. Oh, probably, definitely. I was like, maybe I'm sliding back into the more masculine side of my energy because when I'm in the feminine side of my energy, especially when the moon is in Cancer or Pisces, I get like weepy. So weepy. Now, the moon in Cancer, or the moon in Scorpio doesn't really do it to me. Um, and I just kind of sort of noticed it last year when I was going through like a major heart awakening and revival. Because I would just like get randomly. I remember one time I was eating lunch and it just hit me and I started to like tear up. And I was eating by myself and I didn't want people to think I was crying because I was lonely. So I had to hurry up and finish and then go back to my room. And then I was like, let me see where the moon is. And the moon was like right on top of my Mars in Cancer, trining my sun. I was like, yep, moon in Cancer, it does it. And I could tell because I just get like out of the blue really, really emotional. Like randomly. Not even like paying attention to the transits really. Until I got emotional. Then I'm like, oh my gosh, where's the moon? But then there was a point in time, I guess, where I was getting emotional and the moon wasn't in a water sign. So anyway, I'm saying all of this to say that I feel like I have transiting Uranus in my first house, and it's telling me to let a whole bunch of stuff go, and I'm gonna listen. And so that's what I'm doing because that's what I felt guided to do. So whatever you kind of sort of feel nudged to do in this time, just do it. You know, that's what I've been for the most part doing all year. Um, like I feel like I went through a Venus activation in January. In March, I went through a sort of like self-love portal where I had to start beginning to see the value in me, and I had to start loving myself. And I feel like for me, self-love is different than self-care. I feel like they can be related, but with self care, I feel like self love goes a lot deeper than self care, at least for me personally. And maybe that's because not always, but I've had a practice of self care because of the Taurus in my chart. Where whenever things got too whatever for me, I was like, you know what, I can't keep doing this. Or it's like, if I was feeling whatever, I would do something to cheer myself up, or just be there for myself if I needed to be. But I'm finding that self love is actually, it's the lesson that I'm learning right now. And it's kind of, I don't want to say difficult, but if I'm being honest, there are times when it is a little difficult. Especially because, like I was saying yesterday, it's that part of me giving myself weight in the equation. And it's like, I feel like now I have these tools in my kit where it's like, I can't continue to expect this of me sometimes. Because if I were anybody else, would I expect the same? And it's kind of just being like, or trying to be more selfless. And I don't want to say more selfless than what is necessary, but it's like, I also got to take care of me, And so it's been and that's why I busted out the cards last night, because I was like, I'm so new in this space of self love and being emotional. I made a post on my Twitter. I was like, all this time I was wanting somebody to be emotionally available to me, not even emotionally available to and for myself. LOL. And then I thought I was. It's like, yeah, I really did think I was though. And now I'm hitting these points, and I'm like, wow, was I really? I don't know. All right, so I'm just interested to see what these are. We got Majestic Eminence number 27 and Ice Queen number 22. Now, Ice Queen is all about knowing the self and the polarity within the self and being able to operate it. Ice Queen is introspection, self analysis, and fortitude. Majestic Eminence is Priestess, divine feminine, and worth. And this is literally everything I'm talking about right now. That introspection, that self analysis, and then there's sort of like worth. And then there's the fortitude with the divine feminine. And I feel like it's a lesson. I feel like it's surprisingly difficult for me. I thought it would be easier because I thought I was closer to having self-love. But honestly, in reality, in the past, my heart was never really open to this point. And I never cared about anyone to the point where it was a question of like, do I love somebody else more than I love myself right now? Do I care about somebody else more than I care about me? Like, am I going to allow myself to care about somebody to the point where I neglect me and how I'm feeling and what I want and how I should be treated and what I'm worth? And in the past, I never thought I would have been in this situation because I'm so used to just like cutting people off and moving on. And so again, like, my heart opened like a year ago, basically. Venus activated in my chart like January. I went through the self love. Oh, that's what I got stuck on. I went through the self love portal in like March. Started that journey. First, it's been evolving as time has gone. And then in June, I went through a Mars activation. And so now I'm sitting here with an activated Venus and Mars. Like, honestly, ready to go ham on something. uh, just really appreciating the beauty in like things and people, and not really desiring something that complements me, that grows me, that is for me, and that I don't have to hide or mute the expression of being in. Like, I'm so over muting the expressions and muting like gratitude and muting like that. It's just not me anymore. Maybe I went through a Mercury activation at some point too. Because before, it's like my Mercury is in Pisces in the 12th house. I'm just giving it astrological context. It don't really mean nothing. But before, it's like I would be fine with just like holding certain things, at least to the point where I felt like I couldn't hold them anymore, and then I would get rid of them, or I would dump. Like if the jug got too full of water, and it got like too heavy to carry, or to the point where it was spilling over, Aquarius, jug of water. I got Saturn in Aquarius. Then I would dump it all out, right, to empty it, just to empty it. Honestly, not to get anything reciprocated, just to empty it. Because again, I'm just now getting to the spot where I'm actually ready for a relationship, or where I'm more ready than I've ever been. And I've known like all my life that I wasn't ready to really commit to anybody because I wasn't even open with myself. And I knew I was going to be toxic because of all of the things within me that I was continuing to ignore. So I was like, why would I even like try, right? So that's one of the reasons why I've never been in a relationship. And where are we going with this? Where am I going with this, y'all? What was I talking about? Venus, Mars, not wanting to hide stuff. Yeah, so in the past I was fine with it, but now it's just like I don't want to anymore. It's like, and maybe it's like June. What is this? Illumination. Yes, I saw this card last night. Illumination low-key keeps popping out here lately. Illumination is expression, exactly. Positivity and joy and inspiration. And it's all about that expression. I love how the cards are like, yep, we hear you. And yes, this was also part of your journey. You're welcome. It's been twisty and turny, but I've trusted along the way. And yeah, it's like it's reaching the point where I know like I don't want to have to do that anymore. And maybe that's another thing that the Mars activation in June kind of sort of began to give me. Like when I started to use my voice, I was like, I don't want to go back to not using it. And I talked about it the other day because me not speaking, I feel like it's a role I've been in for a long time, being a silent observer, but I don't like it, honestly. And I'm not going to do that anymore. But anyway, Venus activated January, Mars activated June. And my Venus is in Aries. My Mars is in Cancer. Right now, Mars is in Aries and Venus is in Cancer. So I got a Mars-Venus conjunction in Aries and a Venus-Mars conjunction in Cancer right now. So, I mean, that could also explain some things. And now Uranus is going retrograde in my first house. That's like, you know, like, just let it go. A lot of stuff I'm just letting go. Alright, so, and then we'll do a half cut. This is how this is going to work. This will be the top side. This will be the bottom side. Then I'm going to end it here. I didn't necessarily plan on talking about all this, but I do feel like, I put myself in a position where it's really important for me to speak on where I am and what I'm going through, because so often I'm like, I'm not going through this and I ain't going through that and I don't know what's going on with y'all. But again, for me, it's kind of sort of been this very natural progression from January to now. And in these moments, I've done my best to handle the lessons as they've come up. And so it's not like I was procrastinating and stockpiling. But it's like now I'm coming into this point where it's getting really, really, really close. I didn't even listen to my peaceful meditations music all day yesterday. I was done as soon as I went off live. I just felt like I had to clarify that too. But I feel like that modification point is coming up. And I feel like a large part of that was within me. And a lot of what I'm starting to see here within the past 24 hours, 24 to 48 hours is especially interesting. And through various readings. And if what I'm feeling is true, or if what I'm coming across is going to happen, then March was extremely important for me. Because it's related to like self-love and self-care, but beyond that, it's like And it's even beyond self-worth. It's a self-knowing that self-love furthers. But for me, it's really about valuing and appreciating who I am and what I do and what I'm about, and my own soul, my own heart, my own mind, like my everything. Because for some of the things coming, if March didn't happen, I don't know if I'd be in a space to accept it. Because those were all things that it's like I kind of knew about myself. And I feel like a lot of us, like, whenever we go through a tough moment, and it's like, oh, this person didn't appreciate me, that person didn't appreciate me, this job didn't appreciate me, this situation didn't appreciate me, this external, that external, whatever. I'm this, that, and that. And so I feel like there comes these moments when we're able to recognize that. Or I guess I can only speak from personal experience. So there's been moments when I've been able to recognize that, but the full depth of that had still like eluded me. But now that I'm in the space, and it's also interesting because I came on here the other day and I was like, I feel like right now I need to sit down and write down like all of my skills and everything that I'm good in, just to be consciously aware of that. And I thought it was more so like for a job, and it could be. But I just feel like in this moment, and again, because that's been one of the lessons I've had to learn this year, it's like it's important for me to know all of this about me, and it's important for me to really, 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 really appreciate and value this in me to the point where I make self-honoring choices and self-honoring decisions, where if I am in a Seven of Cups situation and I have something coming to me, but it's not stacking up to all of this that I have, but it's like, oh, like I'm interested, or I'm not doing anything else right now, or blah, 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 whatever. It's like, no, it's about putting me in a position to make self-honoring choices, but also to recognize self, so that when I get things, when things come into my experience, I'm not going to feel that I'm unworthy or undeserving, or that whatever coming in is too good to be true. Because I now know within myself what I'm fully deserving of. And that, like, anything that comes as a result of that is for me. And again, like before March, I don't think I would have been able to take it. I'd be like, oh, it would have been like self-sabotage, because like, oh, like I'm not this and I'm not that, and it's like, no, you are. If you weren't, this wouldn't be happening. So I'm gonna give this a few more shuffles because I have talked a lot. But again, I feel like that's also, at least I've experienced, it's a natural progression of lesson when we sort of learn them. And then it's like towers and fool moments aren't as extreme, because it's like if you're here and you need to be up here, then like if this is where you are in January and this is where you need to be by September, it's like for me, I've been doing this, right? And so now I'm where I need to be. But I feel like in the past, I would do this for a while and then take another step for a while. And then I would like try to take these really big leaps at the end and fall short. But it's like this year, because I've been so intentional, I'm like step, step, step. Sometimes it is like step, leap, step, 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 leap, you know? But yeah, that's sort of how I've been staying afloat, and also that's where I'm at right now. So, and honestly, when I surrender it, it's just like, and last night I also reached a point, because it's like whenever it comes to the point where it's bubbling over within me, because I was like, well, what do I do with all this? Feel it. What do I do with all this emotion? And it was like, give it to yourself, honestly. And it's like, fuel that own fire. And I was like, what? And it was like, yeah. So I actually did that yesterday. Instead of like conjuring the image of this, like, it's like a mannequin or like a person in the past or whatever. It's like, I'm gonna just give it to me. And then I was like, wait, am I gonna have to give it to me till September? If not longer, that's so long. But it's like, don't get caught up in the time. Don't get caught up in the time. And honestly, it's not as easy. Like I said, it's something that I'm learning as I go along, and it's not extremely easy for me. But also at the same time, it's a challenge that I'm going to rise to because I don't know, I'm not taking anything less. And I've been in this space for at least a good year now. More or less. And I've been in the vicinity of this space for a year now. But really crossing over here lately. So let's see what's going on, shall we? And this is, are they in frame? More or less. I'll show them to the camera because I'm using a different angle today. But yeah, so I was just like really not confused. Well, yeah, kind of sort of confused because I'm like, I feel like I'm doing the right thing, but then sometimes it's like, I don't know. And it's like, well, release it. And I was like, okay, I released it. And then it'd be like, hey. And I'm like, well, what is happening? I don't know. So I really just like sat with myself yesterday for a minute. And it's like, I'm also conscious and cognizant of the fact that it's like there are some things that I see right now in a way that I need to see them. Which is to say that I am aware that I could be perceiving some things from a specific lens, from a specific point of view that may or may not reflect something. It may or may not reflect. It's like the amount, the true to lifeness of it is varied. It ain't gonna necessarily be 100%. But the things within me that I know I need to do is what I need to do. So yesterday I hit a point where I was honestly like annoyed, and then as soon as I got annoyed, I had to laugh because I'm like, oh, okay, so work, it's a challenge. All right, I haven't necessarily been in this space where I felt like I've had to really leap in a minute. I feel like it's been this very incremental type thing, and it's kind of sort of always been this incremental type thing. And again, what I'm learning will serve me, and so I don't need to form or hold any attachments because as long as I integrate the lesson, it's like I'll be all right, you know. So anyway, again, that's where I be in. I wonder where I'm going to start with this. I honestly want to start in the middle, and then we'll go down here, and then we'll do this, this, and this. This will be really interesting. So the middle over here, oh my gosh, the Six of Cups on this side. Now the Six of Cups is an energy of the past. It's typically nostalgic, and nostalgic in the way of good memories, right? And it could be cherry picking. The Six of Cups can also be an energy of cherry picking. Either you're cherry picking the good in a situation or you're cherry picking the bad in a situation. It's either trauma or nostalgia. Also, it's the card of inner child healing, or it has been. But I guess now it can be the card of inner child maturation. So if you healed your inner child, or if you were doing like in more intense, and by intense I mean like intentional, if you were doing more intentional inner child work in the past, specifically before this year, but whenever you started, it's like after you get intentional about your inner child work and then you come into a test, how is your inner child integrated or pulled in these situations that you come across? Or is it that you like push your inner child to the side, silence it, and then work through whatever you're going through if you ever come out of it? And again, for me, another thing in March was having these spaces where it's like my light is present, my shadow is present, my inner child is present. And I feel like between the three of those, it should be an accurate representation of me, more or less. But it wasn't. And it's because, like, at the end of the day, with this this place that I'm speaking from right now, with me, it's like I am the one that makes the decisions in my life, right? And so I don't know. It felt like there was a difference. So it's like I feel like if I round table, it's like me, my light, my shadow, my inner child. And sometimes it's like I can be in a space where I could want to do something that none of those three want to do. And then it's like, okay, well, where is this coming from? It's coming from pain. And before I was like, I typically associate the shadow with pain or the shadow with trauma, but it's like for me, it's like my shadow had gotten to the point where that isn't necessarily the case. And even if that is the case, my shadow has evolved to the point where it no longer wants to continue to act out of those spaces. And so if and like I've said before, and I feel a little cuckoo, but it's fine. I'm weird, okay? I'm cuckoo and cuckoo. I guess I am cuckoo. Being a little cuckoo is fine. They say it's a fine line between genius and insanity, and I straddle that thing and I ride it like a bull at the rodeo. Sometimes, okay? I'm sorry. Let me bring it back. But I've said it before, it's like my shadow was like, no, I don't want to do this. It's like, yes, it's based out of pain. Yes, it's based out of the past. But no, I'm not in that spot anymore. I'm also future forward focused with the light and the child. So if you want to do this, know that you are doing this and don't try to blame me for this. And I felt honestly a little betrayed. I was like, wow, you're supposed to be the part of me that wants to do this. And then over here is the Three of Pentacles. And this is interesting energy. This is kind of sort of past, and this would be future. The left is the past, and the right is the future. Because I feel like the Three of Pentacles is about building, it's about starting here and building forward. The Six of Cups is like starting here, but trying to go back, and then moving that forward. And then you see this like lag period, where like if you go all the way back here and then you try to move that forward, you're still further back than when you started, and then you move forward. With the Three of Pentacles, it's like all this extra work, I guess it would be like that you got to do. Not that you could even see my other hand. That's fine. I feel like the Three of Pentacles is also, and maybe this is a part of it that was missing. And maybe that's important to understand. Maybe the light, the light, the shadow, the child, the self, and then maybe there's also a higher self. I've always associated the higher self with the light, but I guess that wouldn't necessarily always be the case. Here we have the Sacral Portal, which is interesting because the Sacral chakra came out yesterday and it was connected to the door to personal healing and happiness. Over here, watch it be like the crown or something. Over here is isolation, number 25. Loneliness, reconnection, and home. Okay, so maybe emphasis on the reconnection and home being the Three of Pentacles, the start of this foundation. And then with the Sacral, this is all kind of sort of more or less self-contained. Then we have the Ten of Pentacles against the Queen of Wands. You see this? The way I have this set up, it's almost like a little chasm, little canyon. And if you run across the top of these, there would be the leap right here that the Fool would have to take. Did I show you these cards? Here's the Ten of Pentacles. Here is the Queen of Wands. Now, fire to me can be an element of the soul, where water can be an element of the spirit. And they're connected, but slightly different, because the soul speaks more to the self, and the spirit speaks more to connection. Now, if you go within you far enough, you should naturally find that connection to others, right? and that's why the spirit and the soul are connected. But one is really like the characteristics, traits, and personality that we hold outside of the collective. So it's almost like the soul would be the Taurus and the spirit would be the Scorpio, where the Taurus is like, this is mine, this is mine. And then the Scorpio would be like, this is communal, this is ours. I had a Scorpio roommate. I'm a Taurus. I got so much Taurus in my chart. But I got this Scorpio roommate. He ate my food. I'm like, bruh, that's mine. And he was like, oh, well, it was just sitting in here, so I ate it. I was so... I wasn't necessarily upset, but I was. Because I'm like, wow, so you really been in here just like munching on my stuff. And what made me extra upset was he would spend all his money on alcohol, but wouldn't get anything to eat. And I'm like, bruh, that it makes sense to me because of what the alcohol does, but it doesn't make sense to me because like you'd rather starve and or just eat my food, and I'm not about that. And then he had a different roommate one day, and he was like, hey, you want some water? I was like, yeah, I'll take one. And then he came back and he was like, oh, these are my roommates. I said, bruh, you can't just be... But that's the water. It's like it flows between us. It doesn't belong to any one person. But then there's a part of it that's yours, right? It's like if you go in on a timeshare. I'm assuming, I think that's how timeshares work. It's like with the timeshare, you get a certain amount of access to this out of the year. And then other people get access and y'all sort of collaborate and work around each other's schedules or whatever. So it's like this one space shared by multiple people, but when you put in for your time, that is your time, right? And that's kind of sort of the integration between them. But anyway, with the Ten of Pentacles, I feel like this is all of the earthly stuff. This is all the self stuff. And then we need to make the jump into the space of others or into the space of spirit. And it's like right now it's been isolated because maybe so many of us haven't yet crossed this divide. Maybe we can call this divide the veil, right? Why not? People talk about peering through the veil and the thinning of the veil and other stuff like that. And maybe that's why isolation is over here, because of the veil. And again, in my personal experience, it's just felt like it's like the higher self. Because at first it felt like something beyond me. But I feel like more and more it's becoming me. And I guess there's still a part of it that is beyond me. But it's like the more I attempt and do make these self-honoring choices, and the more I come into the space that I'm meant to be in, and the further outside of the comfort zone. This could also be the comfort zone, the Six of Cups. And I feel like if this Six of Cups is a comfort zone, it would be especially not great because it's like ways that you've been conditioned since childhood to minimize yourself, to minimize negative external feedback. And so there's something about this card. It's giving me very like, I forget her name from this one show I watched. But it's very much like someone who's been neglected. It's kind of sort of like Dobby from Harry Potter when Dobby got that sock. And it's like no one's ever given Dobby anything before. Dobby will treasure this. And it's like, okay, if Dobby wasn't a house elf or whatever he was, I only saw the movies once and I didn't read the books. If Dobby wasn't who he was, I feel like we'd be like, you've never even gotten a sock before. Like, you shouldn't be this grateful or this thankful. And it's not that we shouldn't be grateful or thankful, but it's like, that's like literally the tiniest of morsels when we should have access to these feasts. And you have to be appreciative and grateful for the morsels before you get to the feast. But it's like, since it's this child space, it's like your stomach never expands and your stomach never grows. And it's like what satisfied and satiated you as a child, you, through the process of growth and evolution, should kind of need more. But the more, some of this more lies on the other side, and this collaboration and cooperation with the higher selves. And then again, the Ten of Pentacles is like, you can reach this abundance, sure, but it could be dry AF. And Ten of Pentacles is like Virgo energy, and there, it's nothing against Virgo energy, but like, if I'm like, oh my gosh, like happiness and joy and abundance, like I'm not necessarily thinking Virgo. Honestly, if I had to pick an earth sign, I would say Taurus. And maybe I'm biased towards Taurus, but it's like, I feel like Virgo is very like, it's meticulous, and I don't know if Virgo energy, and maybe it can. Maybe it's only the lower aspects of Virgo, the more like neurotic side of Virgo that's coming to mind, but it's like, it's very meticulous, it's very ordered, it's very planned, it's very scheduled, and everything has to fall within these confines. And it's almost like if you give a Virgo too much, then they like freak out about where it goes, and they may not necessarily expand their space. I feel like Virgo, it's like Pisces is a very chaotic and expansive energy, whereas Virgo is a very organized and restrictive energy. But Virgo is so organized that it's like the space that a Pisces would get through expansion, Virgo gets through organization and compartmentalization. It's about using the space efficiently. But then it's like, well, Virgo, when do you go beyond? When do you go for more? When do you move up? When do you expand? Or do you just continue to shrink and shrink and shrink and like fit in? It's like Virgo will invent a shrink ray. Are those the shrink plastic bags? The, what is it? Too much stuff, not enough space. That commercial when the Space Saver bags first came out, it was like, just attach a vacuum hose and vacuum out all the air. I feel like that's what Virgo does to like put stuff into space. But, and again, it's, I feel like we need a mixture of both, but sometimes we have to expand beyond. And this Queen of Wands, she's like magical AF in this deck. I wasn't going to read any of these. I want to read this Queen of Wands. I'm not going to. Just know that she's magical AF. I'm pretty sure it's the Queen of Wands that's magical AF, because she's got that wand that's like a staff. And it's like got magic and stuff in it. And it's like connected to the earth and stuff. Yeah, yeah. Oh, I want to read it. I'm going to read it. I can break my own rules. I ain't breaking the rules. It's, I am. Oh, I don't want to, but I'm going to do it because I'm not going to do it, okay? Just know that she's magical AF. And her magic comes from within. But with this energy of compartmentalization, again, it's about more and more and more and more and more effectively using the space within the self and not branching out. And honestly, I feel like this is another little bit of a lesson for me. I feel like I've tried to get really, really good at utilizing the resources that I have within myself to make things happen. And I feel like, again, for the time, I feel like that is necessary, but there's also something beyond. And so I've kind of sort of been feeling nudged to like pray a little bit more, honestly. And it's like, pray about what? I don't really need anything right now. But I mean, I guess praying ain't just about when you need something. Pray more, connect more, just go outside of myself more, right? And I feel like it was necessary for me to have this period of honing the internal intentions and stuff like that, but it's also necessary to cross this divide. So yeah, Ten of Pentacles, that's about getting as far as you can get on the earthly. Over here, it's about integrating elements of the soul self and the power that resides within. Who do we get? Ice Queen and Majestic Eminence. That's another thing that the Ice Queen can do because she knows herself. Ice Queen is kind of sort of Queen of Wands energy. And it's interesting because one is ice and one is fire. So I guess it'd be like the Queen of Swords and the Queen of Wands energy sort of combined. Where the Queen of Swords is she who kind of sort of knows herself and who speaks from that space and tolerates no less. But then you can see where that also fits in with that Queen of Wands energy that is like self-assured, self-confident, and attracts what she wants into her experience by her radiance and by her beauty. Okay, so now Let's do the outsides. So on the outside over, oh my gosh. So this Three of Pentacles, I said, was all about collaborating with the higher self, the higher selves, and kind of sort of the realm of spirits broadly. But the collaboration with the realm of spirit over here is different because this is after the divide. So this isn't necessarily asking spirit to do things for you that spirit has been trying to get you to do for you. Again, because it's like, if you ask, sometimes when you ask spirit to do something for you, spirit will give you the opportunity to do it yourself. And some of us don't take those opportunities, or we don't see them as opportunities when they come because we're looking for the thing, right? Just like the man who drowned when he got a boat and a helicopter and like 15 other people that tried to save him, but he didn't recognize the method of delivery of his prayer until it was too late. And then he went up to heaven and he was like, angels, what gives? And then they're like, dude, we like answered your prayer like 20 times in a million different ways, but you never took any of them. And I think that's another thing that like this Uranus release is kind of sort of like, it's interesting. Oh, the card was Judgment, by the way. That's why I was like, oh my gosh. Now, typically Judgment is an angel, and then we got the Three of Pentacles right here, which is like working with the angels, and then we got the Queen of Wands right here, because like when you work with them, they put you in a position to empower yourself and come into all of who you are. But it's, again, with this isolation, it's about reconnecting to home. And I feel like there's no bridge here until you build one. But it's almost like this bridge has to be built from the other side and then come back. Or you have to set it up where you're like both sides are building towards each other. Because it's like the Tower of Babel, right? If you only build the bridge from here to here with no permit, no permission, no communication, then the bridge will get struck. And that's why it has to be built like this way down. Or at least you got a radio in, because it's like you're flying into these forbidden air zones or whatever. And if you don't have clearance or authorization, they'll shoot you down. And that's what happened with the Tower of Babel, because it's trying to circumvent this very important part of the process. And I already forgot what else I was going to talk about, so so let's just keep it moving. This is a very awkward angle. Y'all can see all the stuff back there. Y'all can see my little PlayStation controller. It's fine. What was I going to say? The man. Prayers being answered. Oh, well. If it's meant to come back, it'll come back. Over here, we have the High Priestess. This is interesting. We have Judgment on one side, the High Priestess on the other. And what's extremely interesting is that both of these are the energy of a 2. 2 and 20. 2 20s is 2020. Or 40, but, we'll say 2020. 2 20s. So over here, I feel like with the High Priestess... Girl, what was all that? I'm sorry if that blew anybody's eardrum. Maybe it didn't. Oh, wait, I think I have desktop audio muted anyway, so y'all didn't even hear it. Yeah, y'all can't hear anything that goes on my desktop, so all the notifications and stuff in OBS, I've effectively muted them. Work, cute, right? Even though I can still hear them. Y'all may have heard that because of the microphone. Anyway, over here I feel like there is this knowledge and this knowing of the self, where it's like the sacral work needs to be done, which is the healing of the creative self, the healing of the feminine self, and the release Uranus. Okay. Thank you, Rain. I was like, it'll come back. I'm honestly feeling like Uranian, the energy of Uranus, as mutable. Like it can kind of sort of take on the energy of any planet, but it sort of intervenes in the energy that is necessary. And I was also thinking about Aquarius, and I was thinking about Uranus and how Uranus can rule a fixed sign. But I think the way we look at fixed is like Taurus, stubborn, or even Leo, and even Scorpio to a degree. But when it comes to Aquarius, it's like mentally fixed. But I think the mental is more so the programming. And so Uranus ruling Aquarius, it's like neither fixed nor mutable, but it is fixed because it's like almost always mutable. It's like always trying to dismantle, always trying to highlight something that, and I guess Scorpio could be the same way. It's like always trying to, where like Scorpio always goes deeper, always deeper, always deeper, and Scorpio is always sort of diving. And that's the fixed motion of Scorpio. Whereas Taurus is always bringing in, and then Leo was like always shining, always like me, me, me. Well, Taurus is the me, Leo is the mine. Taurus is the mine as well. Leo is the look at me, look at me. Anyway, and then Aquarius is like always sort of on the outside, right? And so it's like Aquarius is always like that hipstery, cool kid type energy, where as soon as it becomes mainstream, then Aquarius is on to the next thing. And that's, anyway, I thought about Uranus and Aquarius, and I was like, well, because I don't necessarily feel now like Aquarius is fixed, but Aquarius is kind of sort of always in that space of looking beyond, of being outside or going further. So it is fixed. It's just in a way that, like, we may not necessarily, it's not necessarily stable. It's like the eye of the storm on Jupiter. There may be a few planets with these storms that always rage. That's Aquarius. That's the energy of the Aquarius. It's like this forever raging storm, forever changing and evolving, and also Scorpio in a way, right? Always, like I said, always going deeper. Leo was like it's always summer. Taurus is like it's always winter, and we're in the house, or it's always like it's like that winter, pre-winter, like either we're stuffing our faces to prepare to hibernate or we're hibernating, and it's like going between that. Like it's never summer or spring. Leo, it's always spring and summer. Um, but anyway, so I guess Scorpio would be going down and Aquarius would be going up. In some ways. NT ways. So I was feeling like Uranus can kind of sort of take the energy of any planet that's needed. Because I feel like in my life, and maybe it's because it's not exact. Well, actually, it's getting closer and closer to trining Jupiter. Jupiter, because Jupiter was retrograding. It went from like 20 some degrees all the way to like 18 right now, and Uranus was 10 degrees. So that's a very loose conjunction or trine. But it's like in my life, Uranus is almost this like Saturn and Jupiter combo right now. Also Pluto, and again, it's interesting because Uranus is in Taurus and all of those are in Capricorn. So it's like trining it up and it's easy access. But I feel like in my life, the Saturn of Uranus is a withdrawal. The Jupiter of Uranus is an expansion. And then the Pluto of Uranus is like, are these things that need to be severed or cut? So it's like, honestly, maybe it's more Pluto and Jupiter than Saturn. Because it's like cutting it with Pluto and then allowing it to expand with Jupiter. And I think that's what Uranus is trying to get me to do. Is just coming in and like get me to this point where it's like when you try to start a car and it's like a false start or something, and it's like we've been trying to get this to work and then it would just crap out. It's like starting up, and then it would give up like that. And so it's like we've been in this space of winding up, falling apart, winding up, falling apart, and now Uranus is, from my perspective, Uranus is retrograding to get us to see or to look at that moment where we should be like ready for takeoff, but then the systems like go into critical failure and then they just like cool down or whatever. And so it's about looking at this moment so that we can do this and then take off, right? Instead of doing the wah, wah, wah type energy. It's looking at that, and that's the something that needs to be cut so this expansion can happen. And again, it's coming in the Uranus way, because I feel like Pluto is so Pluto can be so deep that we don't always necessarily see it. And so Pluto is almost like taking advantage of Uranus's ability to really shake things up on the surface instead of shaking things up on the bottom of the water. Because it's like, if Pluto isn't like hitting hard enough, it's like all the water at the bottom of the ocean is sort of like absorbing the impact, and so it never hits you at the surface, right? But now it's like we got this force at the surface coming in where the force at the bottom is happening, and then it's almost creating this like, because it's like at the bottom, it's like if you've ever filled up a tub and then you drain the water and you get the like the little water vortex whatever thing, it's like that's happening up top, and then it's also happening in the bottom, and now they're gonna connect and just like part the sea basically. um but yeah, that's what I was getting with Uranus. um it can kind of sort of take the energy of anything needed to really shake it up on the surface. Now let's see what else is there. Oh, so that then we have the Three of Pentacles, and we have Judgment over here, which is again working with, it's developing this higher sense of connectedness that we actually listen to, right? And not just like when we want to. And it's an energy of developing the self into this Queen of Wands. Now, where do we start over here? We start with Justice. Interesting. And her sword is like tiny. It's like that little purple sword in her hair. I had such an interesting dream last night. A few of them. So we start with Justice, then the Three of Pentacles, and then Judgment. I feel like this is a very inside to outside type energy. And this Justice is about the things within our own personal experiences. It's almost like, honestly, it feels like this Justice is the Gemini part of the node, and then the Judgment is the Sagittarius part of the node. So to go from Gemini to Sag would be, I don't want to say better or correct, but it's one way of going about it, where we have this justice that we sort of work out in our own life, and then we allow this internal justice and how we want to be treated to expand to the point, build upon our relationships and connections and everything else, establish the foundation, or be like the first layer of bricks in the foundation that will then lead to this more universal global sense of justice and caring and all kinds of stuff like that, right? And then it'll put us in the space of the Queen of Wands, where this is about learning the balance. And it's like the three is this little the it's not fulcrum. It may be fulcrum, but the three is this little triangle. Y'all can't even see it. Is this little triangle, and then we put the beam on top of it to make like the seesaw or the teeter totter. And it's about this balance that we maintain between self with justice and others with judgment. And when we can properly navigate this, then I feel like it gives rise to this reconnection of these things that maybe we lost because so many people would take advantage of it or use it to further and promote themselves and like self-gain, self-interest, stuff like that. Excuse me. And that's one of the reasons why this veil has been established. And that's why the Tower of Babel had to fall. Because it's like, y'all ain't do the work. It's like, y'all not like, y'all just thought y'all was real smart and real cute. And y'all was trying to, and it's almost like in some weird way, it's almost like science or technology that seeks to replicate. And it's not weird because I mean, that's literally what science is. It's us trying to understand the universe that we live in. But then it's like science takes it a step further by trying to replicate or deviate or chimericize, if that's even a word. And I like science. I like spirituality too. I'm kind of on the in between. But I do feel like there needs to be a sort of space of. I feel like science is so heady that there are some questions that it doesn't ask. There are some questions that some won't ask. It's never really a question of like, should we do this? It's it's seemingly always a question of like, can we do this? And but it's like on the spirituality side, it's so heart focused that it's almost like it's overly dependent on this side and it's overly independent on this side, and there needs to be a balance of both. Because I feel like again with the Queen of Wands coming out, it's about putting us in the space of our own power after we heal these things within the self. After we reconnect to home, and then home would be the heart and or the soul. But not like the lower heart and the fragments of the soul that we operate out of to satisfy and satiate our own desires. But like these higher sort of elements, again, that takes justice into account, that takes the way that we interact with the world into account. And I've been seeing these Prager U ads on YouTube, and everything in me is just like click off, but I gotta watch it. And one of the things that's honestly seemingly frustrating sometimes about the world we live in is that everything comes with a cost. And even when we try to do good, someone is always affected. And the one that kind of sort of hit me the most was about energy. And he was like, hey, I'm the dude that was part of pioneering, or I came up with something that became the basis of the Green New Deal and blah, blah, blah. And let me tell you something, like wind turbines and solar panels, they wreak havoc on the wildlife. And some of these birds are already like pretty close to being extinct, and they just keep flying into these wind turbines, or if they fly into a field of solar panels, they get so hot it like cooks them. And it's like, so, and it feels like it's always told from the perspective of let's just keep doing what we're doing. But I feel like what we're doing isn't really a solution either. And then the alternative also comes with setbacks and drawbacks, and sometimes it's like, well, can we not win? And it's like, no, when you're not connected to, when you don't care about, when you're not cognizant of all that there is. And I feel like if humanity acted from a space outside of its own self-interest, that's when we'd be able to really come into a lot. There are so many things that we don't have access to because somebody thinks that there isn't a market for it, or because it's too disruptive to the pre-existing markets, and there's too much money being had in these areas to really put any resources to discovering something new. It's a very like, if it's not broke, why fix it type of mentality, but it's also an energy of not seeing the infractions and imperfections and the negative consequence to the full extent of what they are. Because it's like sacrificing long-term sightedness for a short-term gain. And then some people are very like, oh, well, if the planet falls apart after I'm gone, then it's not my problem, so I'm gonna just keep doing whatever until then. And I still eat meat, so I just feel like I gotta say that too. Even though my body is like, I'd say I'm a bit herbivorous. Not herbivorous, omnivorous, sorry. I'm getting into the veggies too. If I had some paneer, which is kind of sort of like the tofu but better. I would probably be able to give up meat, honestly. If I lived in India, I feel like I could be a vegetarian because the food just got so much flavor. You know what I mean? Is that an excuse? I don't know. Anyway. Anyway, that's the sort of the balance, the teeter-totter over here between justice and judgment, service to self and service to others. And then this Three of Pentacles is that triangle where that space where they collaborate instead of maybe like a Three of Swords, a space where they fight. Or like a Five of Wands, Five of Swords type energy. But yeah, so over here we go from the High Priestess to the Six of Cups to the Ace of Cups, which leads us to the Ten of Pentacles. I mean, immediately this feels like the space of fulfilling of one's own desires, or the fulfillment of one's own desires. We got the High Priestess and the Six of Cups into the Ace of Cups. This is like, what do I need to do to get that thing from the past that I really liked and bring it into now to move forward into this Ten of Pentacles energy? And then it's the sacral, and again, the sacral can be the space of our own desires and furthering our own ends, right? I mean, it is the seat of our own personal creative power, more or less. But it feels like it really stops with the self here. And maybe that's why I started with the Six of Pentacles, or the Six of Cups over here with the Three of Pentacles over here. Because the Six of Cups kind of sort of set the tone for all of this. And again, it's all about bringing something forward from the past. And I was like, over here, it's like we go back to the past and then we try to move it forward with the Six of Cups to come to Ten of Pentacles. But over here, it's like we start where we are and we build forward and we keep moving forward. Now, again, there has to be sort of there is an integration spot here where I guess, excuse me, it could be the energy of trusting that what is in the past that we're meant to revisit will come back to us. And so it almost creates these loops and these means and these methods for what was to be again without going back and focusing on it and missing out and losing out on the forward progress in the moment. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I feel like I said, both of these are necessary, and I feel like this justice is kind of sort of speaking to all of this energy in general. But justice is also asking us, because it later leads to judgment, and we're going to be judged. It's asking us to keep others in mind as we do it as well. And that's another thing about the Queen of Wands. I feel like the Queen of Wands coming out and clarifying this, or the Queen of Wands being clarified by all this, is telling us that we don't have to give up and sacrifice that. Like, we don't have to sacrifice what it is that we personally desire. But it's also to go about it in a way that, I mean, there are going to be effects and consequences either way. Like, we just use the power analogy. But it's just to be a little cognizant, and it's to be a little caring, right? Of like, you're not the only one on the planet, and so have a, like, save the whales, give a hoot, don't pollute type of energy, right? There are things that we can do within ourselves that minimize our impact. And we can find a balance if we want to. And I think that may be another reason why that Tower of Babel fell, because again, it's like not about finding the balance. The Tower of Babel was very heady. It's like, we're going to get the best engineers that we have, and the best this and the best that, and we're all going to pull our minds together to, the sun with that Six of Pentacles. That Six of Pennies is coming for me. Hey. You just gotta, sometimes you gotta cut stuff loose to let it grow. Oh my gosh, that double card again, y'all. But the sun is coming out. The sun will come out today. Oh, bye-bye, devil. Eight of Wands with the sun. Like I said, the sun will come out today, not tomorrow. Tomorrow is today, if you wait long enough. But then there's another tomorrow, so is it really? Oh, I just saw the Four of Cups. No, I don't like the meaning of the Four of Cups, but I do love how it's illustrated here. Just somebody to chill with, and then the King of Cups right there, like, yes. Final message, please. Actually, I'm going to take the card off the top, but I do want to get the final one from the Energy Oracle cards first. But yeah, that's all that. I feel like it doesn't really need any more clarification. Uranus has joined the retrograde party. Mars will be joining here soon enough. We got a new moon coming up. Ooh, the Guardians. I'm actually going to read this one. Bottom of the deck is Wisdom, number 44. Psychic, Intuition, and Truth. Number 44, Wisdom. And then the Guardians came out. Now, this is a card that I don't see too often. The Guardians is number 37. It's Shielding, Defense, and Warning. It's interesting because 37 came out yesterday in the third chakra, Archangel Candle, I believe. And then number 33 came out, which was the Door to Romance. And now we got the 44, which is 11 more. So from Romance to Wisdom, from Camel to the Guardians. Again, this is Shielding, Defense, and Warning. Well, that's interesting. It's what just popped into my mind is like it's a very smart system, so trust it. Like it's been crafted by master craftsmen, so trust it. Also, my mom always says that the Bible says warning comes before destruction. So she always, well, the Bible says warning comes before destruction. Usually when I get the Guardians, or sometimes when I get the Guardians, it's kind of sort of like, I'll treat it like a title card, like a mind your business type energy, or like a live your life and find out. Because it's like the Guardians are blocking the vision for a reason. And it's something that needs to be experienced. And that's another thing. Honestly, between Venus and Mars and everything else going on in my life, and with Uranus now being retrograde, I'm ready to be excited about something. If I tap into like all that I'm feeling, it's like ready to move, ready to begin something new, ready to relocate and experience something new. It's just it's excitement. I'm ready to be excited, and I've been doing these little things since March, like these little things to be excited for, right? So maybe I'll tell myself I'll watch Palm Springs like tomorrow evening, and so I can be excited about watching that because I wanted to watch it for a minute. I almost watched it last night, but I didn't. I didn't have enough food. It's like I did have enough food, but I didn't need as much. Right, so maybe it'll be something lighter. Maybe I'll get a salad. Ew, we'll see. A spinach-based salad I can do. Lettuce-based, not so much. Anyway, I want to be excited. And I love surprises because I like being excited. And I say it all the time, but then it's like sometimes maybe I get a little bit impatient. And then also the Pisces in me is like always like, oh my gosh, maybe this will be happen. Maybe this will happen. Maybe that'll happen. Maybe this will happen. And like none of it has happened yet to this moment so far in time. But one day I'm gonna be in a space where I do get them surprises, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I love it. So this is a Winter Midnight Flame colorway. Winter Midnight Flame. What the? That's giving me the energy of the cold miser, maybe. And maybe a heat miser out there. Let me stop. Sorry. I'm sorry. Moving on. So, the celestial interpretation here says, the Guardians resonates to that of guardianship of the soul. So, yesterday, the last time I used these on this channel, I believe, Ice Queen came out, which was about, like, conquering the shadow self or something like that. And then, what came out after Ice Queen? I don't remember, but it was like finding the power of the soul. So we go from discovering more and more truths of the soul with that Ice Queen energy to stepping into the power of it with whatever that other card was. I can't remember. And now with the Guardians, it's like it's the guardianship of the soul, which could be that Queen of Wands that keeps popping up because it first popped up in the SKT. And I was like, so maybe instead of it being the gatekeeper to all of our desires, and it is, but it's also the gatekeeper to the soul. And it's like we feel like we're hitting this impenetrable wall, or there's something keeping us. It's very was it God of War 3 when there was a fire around like Pandora's box or whatever, and there was like a cage with the fire burning inside and then the box, and then you had to do something to like lower the cage and turn off the fire and then get to the box. And this is the winter midnight flame. So yeah, and the guardian, maybe the winter midnight flame is guarding this. But we have winter and flame, which is already ice and fire. And then midnight, which is the space between like the previous day and the next. But it is the next day. But it's still at night, right? So it's like we would tear a page off of the calendar even though the sun hasn't like risen up yet. And again, it's bringing me the bottom of the wheel, or even this area of the wheel, even though I feel like midnight is typically the top or it could be the bottom. But I guess midnight would be here, right? Wait, how would that work? Well, I guess if it's like the summer, like midnight, and then by 6 o'clock the sun is up, and then it's noon, around the equinox, right? And the next equinox coming up is the autumnal equinox, which is September, which is Libra. Interesting. And so it's like sun rises at 6, sun sets at 6, midnight is when the sun is coming up, when the sun is coming up over the wheel, but before we can necessarily like full see it, whatever. I don't know. Sorry, let me just wrap this up. So the Guardians resonates to that of guardianship of the soul. When a soul faces adversity or challenge, it is always innately guided to shield its sacredness from undue harm. There exists many forms of guardians among the various universes, and they serve to also ensure the safety and preservation of sacred sites, portals, souls, and wisdom of the light. And wisdom is at the bottom of the deck. So guardianship is a responsibility that these dimensional beings are honored to have. Isn't that interesting? I'm honored to have this responsibility. The companion crystals are black obsidian and smoky quartz, and the oil is helichrysum or helichrysum, HELICHRYSUM. Chrysum and heli, like helix. Helichrysum? Or helichrysum. I don't know. Anyway, the oracle interpretation here says, look at the signs around you very carefully. Your guardian angel, spirit guide, higher self, or other supportive light being is trying to get your attention. This may be a time to guard yourself from a toxic situation or energy vampire, or it may be a warning of a future concern. Also, evaluate your own shielding mechanisms. Do you have any? If so, are they working? If not, revisit and strengthen them. Okay, so that's interesting. And I have been seeing that double card a lot, which, speaks a whole bunch of toxicity and stuff like that. Which is fine. I guess that energy could also be like, it's kind of sort of like moths to a flame. And it's like the moths don't care about you until it gets dark, and then all of a sudden everyone wants to buzz around type of it. I've had a lot of friends like that in my life, honestly. I call them poor weather friends. Everyone else has fair weather friends. I have poor weather friends. While you're someone's fair weather friend, I'm their poor weather friend. So, you know, when they go through something rough, then they come to me for healing, support, whatever. And then as soon as things turn back around, boop, they're gone again. And that was an energy that kept me isolated from a lot of people for so long. It kept me from honestly engaging in these ways that are very natural to me because I just naturally like giving and stuff like that. But, who likes to be used or to not have anyone there for them when they need someone? And I've also, I've been blessed in many, many, many ways. And one of those ways is it seems like whenever I get close to someone in particular, there's this event that happens in my life that person is there for. Like my very, 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 very good friend Emily was there for several events of my life when I was in college. The friend that I went on retreat with, even though he's a bit of a butthole sometimes, um, he's also been in my life. This other guy who I don't talk about, I guess, too much, he was there also for a lot of my life. And it's like, I'll meet these people, I'll feel this sort of connection, and then these events will happen. I'm like, oh my gosh, so this is why I met you, and you're here for me in this time. Thank you. And it's kind of sort of been this cycle of various people over time. And also, what's interesting is it talked about collaborating with spirit or something like that, or your guardians or your guides or something like that. And I think that's that sort of Three of Pentacles that came out between Justice and Judgment that I was kind of sort of talking about. So, card at the top of the deck is the King of Wands. We saw the Queen of Wands. Here is her king. Her king is a woman. Butch, biker, lesbian. Look at her. In the entry, they say the D word. I'm like, I am not reading that word. I'm not doing it. Oh. Bottom of the deck is the Three of Swords, though. The King of Wands with the Three of Swords. That's ego. I feel like that's the space of how your ego will get you. Like I said, she's a bad girl or whatever. I didn't necessarily say that. I'm about to project a whole bunch of stuff onto this woman that ain't even necessarily her narrative, but it's how it's coming to me through the vein of the energy of the King of Wands. And it's like, you so big, you so bad, whatever. It's like you don't allow yourself the opportunity to be vulnerable, and you don't express authentically from a space of vulnerability. You never communicate the things that you actually want for the sake of keeping up the image, keeping up the facade. And because again, with that king energy, it's kind of sort of about taking what works, and then even with the queen energy, but the king energy is about taking what works and, but what works on an external point. The queen energy could be taking what works on an internal, but out of balance. It's like when the king's external doesn't match his internal, it may be because of things going on in his internal. When the queen's external doesn't match her internal, it may be because she's not acting from that place, not speaking from that place of power, right? And so on either side, I guess in reverse or in the shadow of that energy, it's this misalignment between the environment and the self. And again, I feel like maybe this King of Wands energy is starting to real. And it's also interesting that Queen of Wands came out with Justice, the Three of Pentacles, and Judgment. And then the King of Wands comes out at the end with the Three of Swords. So again, it could just be like this King of Wands energy not speaking from this space of what they truly desire for the sake of keeping up a facade, and then not getting anything that they actually want. Or coming into these situations where they do attract something that they want, but the facade keeps them from engaging with that space in a way that will maintain it and that will keep it. And now they're in the Three of Swords state because the image and the ego was more important than the substance and the situation, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, there's a space for that and a time for that King of Wands to learn that. Also, with the Guardians and Wisdom coming out, it could be that the King of Wands was sort of like, because at the end it asked us about our protection. And a lot of times when it comes to humans and our egos, we guard and protect ourselves in these things that are very rooted in not great things. And so, if the basis of your guardianship, if the basis of your gate is not great things, then it's almost like it can prompt you to see the not great in a situation and to have that outweigh it, right? And kind of sort of going back to the energy of that Six of Cups versus the Three of Pentacles, the Six of Cups could more so pull from a space of the past. And again, it's like going back to the past and then trying to move something forward. But if you go back to the past, all of these previous experiences, then it's like red flag, red flag, red flag, boom, and you stop it before it even gets anywhere. But if you go with that Three of Pentacles approach, when you move forward and when you work forward, knowing that whatever's coming into your experience, if you've already done the work, then you or when you begin to do work, you start attracting things that may more align with these new spaces rather than the past spaces. And so you're judging these new spaces on past opportunities or past experiences, and it taints the newness, the freshness of this, right? It's almost like there's this Ten of Swords that needs to happen where we completely rewrite our mental programming, because the stuff in the past doesn't necessarily have to hold true for the future. But again, also that's that King and Queen 2.0 or that King and Queen 1.0 energy where we're so established in what we've already known and what we've already become. And we kind of see it right now. There are a lot of people and a lot of businesses that were well established, but then this one global sort of tower moment happens and those establishments crumble. And then now you'll see ads of people like, I've been going online and I've been doing online advertising and online this and online that for years now, and now everyone's coming to me like, how do I do this? You were ahead of the game. Aquarius ahead of the curve, right? Uranus. And it's like tower moment aside, this is the trajectory, this is the progression that we were always heading towards. Like you'll see other people's like things were shifting more and more and more online anyway. It's like when Blockbuster went out of business because Netflix became a thing, right? And it's I brought it up the other day. Someone was like Barnes and Nobles, they're doing like alcohol and like dinner now because they're trying to stay relevant. But staying relevant isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's about moving and evolving with the times, and it's about changing and being in the flow. And when you're in the flow, it involves change. And but when you resist that change, it takes you out of the flow. And then to get you back in the flow, you kind of sort of need these towers to come and bust up the dams that you build in your own life that prevent you from moving forward. Anyway, that was a whole lot. I feel like I've said everything that I needed to say, and it may not have been one after the other, may not have been sequential or coherent, but it's all in there somewhere. Bye.